Howdy, guys, gals, and non binary pals. This is the Tales from the Waystone Summer Reading Program.
We're your hosts, Will and Phoenix. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the seventh and final installment of our series on Travis Baldree's Bookshops and Bonedust. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end, where we'll be reading chapters 37 through the epilogue.
Sorry that this took an extra 2 weeks to get to you. Alrighty, the thing that nobody wants to listen to, but I say every time anyway. Short explanation of the pod, each week we'll be examining a section of Bookshops and Bonus and figuring out what we can take from the text to apply to our real lives and we will also take some time to focus on something that we have learned this week, and then we will share a recommended thing of the week. Finally, we will wrap things up with a notable quotable from the book that made us smile or think or laugh. We could reorder that, but
We're not gonna.
Right. Before we begin, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. First of all, we are in no way affiliated with Travis Baldree or his publisher, Tor Books. Second of all, our discussions naturally assume that you have finished Bookshops and Bonedust. If you haven't, please go do that. We're not going to step-by-step this one. All right, you're either here because you don't care about spoilers or you've read the book like we asked you to. Anyway, there will be spoilers for the end of the book. You've been warned. Also, we're to our community. Please be kind to yourselves, one another, and the creators of the worlds that we love exploring.
Cool. All right. So let's start in. So we pick up with Viv and Galena going off on...
Kill a whole bunch of boars quest?
Yeah, it's that go out, clear up the equivalent of a level 1 MMO quest.
I gotta say, this section of the book feels a lot like when we've been watching things like Dimension 20 and go, right, the beginning of this episode started in such a different place than the end. The short end of this is that farmer thought that wild animals were killing their sheep. Turns out,
well, there were spinebacks, which I guess are kind of like rocky hyena things.
And there is an action sequence of Galena and Viv and Satchel murder poning a bunch of them.
But that's not what was taking the sheep. They do find a bunch of sheep entrails somewhere else with an ominous sigil burned into the ground.
Dun dun dun. Second ominous sigil in a week.
And the smell of frozen blood.
Which is very funny to me because I also do know for certain that the colder it is, the less likely you're going to be able to smell something. Scent molecules are reliant on warmer air moving around to get to someone's nose, and the colder it is, the less the air is moving, and the less that scent molecule is going to get to somebody's nose.
Maybe it's because Viv has super orcish sense of smell or something like that.
Or it was just cool to write.
Little column A, little column B.
But we're going to truncate this whole section and say that this made all of the happen, and Viv and Galena have an excruciatingly slow travel back to Merc, eventually getting there after Viv is like, okay, this is just interminable. No. And carries Galena like a backpack back to town when they're not quite there yet. It's like, nope, can't do this. Patience gone. Never mind. Run. And we get a kind of extended scene of, hey, Galena, go make sure that Fern's okay. I'm going to go make sure Maylee's okay. And then run off to the town and try to get the book back because I know that Vereen is here and she's looking for it. And the best way to defeat an enemy is by having the thing that they're looking for right in their grasp. Wait, what? But that's essentially like truncating what happened.
So when Viv and Satchel finally get into town, in the town proper, in the walls, they discover that it's overrun with skeletons.
Are they whites or are they the same thing that Viv was fighting in the caverns?
I think so.
Okay. Viv is overwhelmed with a lust for just bopping them and scattering them.
She longs for battle.
And Satchel's like, book. Book.
Don't worry, we'll have plenty to kill on our way through.
Just seriously, steer the ship into Riddlin Bay. Let's go for the thing that is the actual goal. And Viv is like, oh, man.
She is plenty happy to go this way, though.
Well, there's a part of her that's like, rah, 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 and then goes off to get the book. We're truncating a lot of this. I think that that's okay. What I have discovered about this is that the whole story is about the relationships between people and that the action is there.
I think the important part about this battle scene is as a contrast to who Viv was at the beginning. Whereas at the beginning of the story, she was rash and impulsive and just got caught up in the moment.
And couldn't be deterred.
Now she is thinking a little bit more strategically about what she needs to do to accomplish her objectives. She knows that she is not an invulnerable warrior, that nobody is.
Well, she especially right now because her leg isn't fully healed.
And she also knows that her win condition isn't just kill as many of these whites as she can, because there's basically an unlimited supply of them. For every one that she kills, another one will come up. So she can spend all of her time racking up a massive kill count,
all of her energy,
and it still won't actually help her advance to her goals.
Speaking of her goal, she does retrieve the book, rushes off to take the book away, and in the creepy way. So, like, if you've seen Pluribus, that's the most recent example I have of this very creepy. Every single white that she sees when she leaves the building that the book was in stops, stares at her, and with one voice, talk to her, and it's Vereen.
Unsurprisingly, Vereen has hostages.
Go figure. One of which Viv just kind of sent to her. Gotta love it. But she did choose 50-50 who she was going to go and try to see and try to make sure was safe. And she chose Mei Li and sent Galena off to make sure that Fern was okay. And now Fern and Galena are cocooned in just like bones in the bookshop, which has been absolutely destroyed on the interior.
It's been ransacked.
Yep, because I don't know if Vereen just thinks that the book is still there amongst all the others, or if she just got angry and started wanting destruction.
So my understanding is that when Iridia took possession of the book, she placed it behind several warded protections that kept it hidden. So Vereen knew that the book was somewhere in Merc and didn't know where. And thanks to Blackblood, knew that Viv had possession of it at Fern's place. And since that was the last known place for it, I think that's where she thought it would probably be hidden. And so, yeah, Vereen is like the worst bookstore customer who's just taking books off the shelves and kind of leaving them in disarray and not even like putting them back on a cart or anything, just kind of leaving them on the floor. She can't find what she wants. And, you know, when Viv finally catches up with her, we learn a little bit about Vereen's motives. So for her, I mean, she's effectively an immortal, ageless being at this point. Like, Galena tried to kill her, but, I mean, physical weapons don't really do anything to her.
How intimidating is it for the big bad to just nonchalantly be walking around with one of your friend's weapons just shoved in her shoulder?
Yeah, it's unnerving.
So I'm just thinking about things in terms of like D&D, where this is an intimidation check.
Oh yeah. And Vereen is, I think if we had to put her into a D&D creature category, a high level lich. You know, she's functionally immortal. She can't really be killed unless you find her phylactery,
which I think is the book.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Because this is like a storage solution for her. Everything that she has pilfered throughout her long life that is of any value to her or others is stuffed in this book.
It's where all her treasures are, all of her knowledges, all of her magical, powerful things are. And so when Viv finally gives the book back, and then also Satchel's bag, Vereen is elated to finally have these markers of time. Like, she's obsessed with, she doesn't want things to end. Like, that's the whole reason she pursued immortality.
When she's talking about her time, I think it's her future time, but I also think it's the time she sunk into acquiring and nurturing everything that makes up her life or her undeath.
Yeah, like, it's that whole thing of how much is your time worth? Her time is infinitely valuable as far as she's concerned. And she has, as far as she's aware, infinite amounts of it.
So I see in this little section, there are influences from playing TTRPGs, including attacks of opportunity, including hold person, including how combat happens, especially with high level creatures, and also forethought and thinking outside of just the linear.
And this is where we also see a different side of Viv, a side of Viv that is actually thinking a little more strategically than before. Because when she took the book from Iridia, she dog-eared a certain page, which is just the sort of thing that annoys Vereen.
Yeah, I am the type of person that likes my stuff to be pristine unless I have chosen for it not to be. So, our copies of The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear, or at least our paperback copies that I got used, are all dog-eared where our chapters or where our episodes have been. And I really like that as a functional reminder of how we went through the podcast. But if anyone purposefully or maybe accidentally ripped, bent, dog-eared anything, the nice copy of the 10th anniversary, sorry, Name of the Wind, I would lose my
Sure.
shit for a little while. I would eventually get over it because what's done is done, but I would not be terribly calm or happy about that. Like, I've been upset over accidentally dropping a book and having it just destroy the cover or, bend something or rip something. And I'm usually more upset with myself. I wouldn't necessarily be mad at somebody else for it. In fact, I'd probably encourage them to give themselves grace over the whole accident thing. But it's a thing. But yeah, you lend a book to somebody and they bring it back and it's just dog-eared to crap.
Yeah, that's the story of every book that I ever loaned to one of my best friends in high school.
This man does not care that much about people's property.
He's gotten better.
Okay.
But, we were young and he didn't have a whole lot of storage space to carry things around in. So he oftentimes ended up sticking paperback books into his coat pocket. And so he could read on the bus. And living in the greater Seattle metro area, waiting for the bus, oftentimes meant waiting in rain. So things got usually a little water damaged, a little bent out of shape. And that was just kind of the nature of things. And let's be real, these were also mass market paperbacks that were meant to be cheap things that you could buy at a drugstore. They weren't expensive, large format books or anything like that. So,
which unfortunately, it's exceedingly rare now to find an inexpensive paperback.
It's rare to find an inexpensive anything.
That's true. I do like the resolution that we get to the whole Vereen problem.
I mean, who amongst us hasn't found themselves just sucked into a book with a gripping narrative and you just can't find a way to get out of it?
Or, pulled into a book by a charming yet very frightening skeleton creature that has tricked you by bifurcating himself and letting his friend just toss half his bones at his old master, and then knowing that the dog-eared page would drive her nuts so that she would feel the need to fix it, and he could just rip her into the book.
And then when she's cut off from everything else, it turns out, he's got these very sharp finger blades.
Yeah.
She doesn't have any of her minions there, any of the things that have kept her safe.
No weapons, no nothing. Maybe magic, but we don't know exactly what happened. But what we do know is that Pot Roast saves the day. When it looks like she maybe rolled well on her checks to get out of grapple, Pot Roast comes along and rolls a nat 20 or a nat 1 because he also falls into the book.
He manages to fail in a heroic fashion, so I'd say it's probably a mixed success.
That's fair.
He rolls just well enough to knock her in, but not so well that he's not also pulled in as well.
But then Viv rescues the little monster and solidifies that, the relationship should actually be a little more kind. Back to Viv.
Reciprocal.
It's like when your friends have a cat and you just want to love them and they couldn't give a crap about whether or not you exist.
Yep.
The story of Sokka and our friend that takes care of him when we're gone. Anyway.
Yeah, so point being, once everything's done and Satchel's out of the book, Viv finally destroys it with black blood.
So I know you've never actually watched the movie, but if anyone has seen the Care Bears movie, the end of it is very reminiscent of this, and it scared the living hell out of me when I was a kid.
A lot of things scared you when you were a kid.
Yeah, a lot of things gave me nightmares. Willy Wonka gave me nightmares. Yeah,
And with the book finally destroyed, and destroyed by the only thing that probably could, which is to say one of Verine's own things,
Black Blood.
the spell is broken and all of the whites crumble to dust.
The bones holding our protagonist's best friends crumble to dust.
And the day is saved just in time for Rackham to arrive too late.
Yeah, I love how the idea of this adventuring party that is full of experts and seasoned veterans has just been led around by their nose.
Well, they're fighting an enemy that has basically unlimited cannon fodder and isn't constrained by distance. So they're looking for a needle in a haystack.
But coming at the end of the story and being handed the book that is now dead feeling, like it used to contain a feeling of life or unlife, and now it is distinctly inert, I think would be just so unsatisfying. If I was the rest of Rackham's crew, just be like, really?
Is that all there is?
Maybe mollified by the money from stuff, but I don't know. It would just be kind of sad.
This is also where Viv makes good on her promise to Galena and introduces her to the crew.
The implication being that she gets adopted by the crew. Who wouldn't want Galena to be the newbie?
We've seen that Galena is quite capable, and beneath her sometimes abrasive exterior is actually pretty perceptive. And then we get a bit of wrap up with Fern and Mei Lee. So Mei Lee knows that with the destruction of Vereen and the return of Rackham, Viv's time in Merc is over. This chapter is closed.
She's sad, but she's also accepting.
Yeah, she knew this was going to happen, and she accepted that this was going to happen. It was never something that she tried to run from or deny.
But now she's sad. Now she's not denying that the reality is there, but she's just wishing that it wasn't so abrupt.
Just a little more time.
The same kind of feeling happens with Fern. Viv is given one last book, finishes it, and goes to return it, only to be told that it is a gift, that she should keep it, and some profound words are spoken.
One of the things that Fern says is that, characters and stories are wrong all the time.
Authors are wrong.
And stories belong to the people who read them. And we're always free to imagine what happens next. That's one of the pleasures of stories, is imagining for yourself what happens after the end.
The story after the story.
We all have a story after a story. Like, you can tell any given story about a person's life, but there's also stuff that came after that. And there's stuff that came before it. And it really sets up our epilogue, which time jumps to sometime after the end of Legends and Lattes.
I don't want to give away too much. I think that that's for readers to discover. But I'll tell you this, I've read it twice, and both times it made me cry happy tears.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful things in there.
But what I will say is that what we're left with, and it might be a notable quotable, but I'm going to say it anyway. Viv was grateful for all the wrong times that had led to this right one.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I've lived through a lot. I've lived through a lot of things that felt very wrong, that felt unjust, that felt undeserved, that felt like the wrong place to be. And I'm not going to say that I do all of that again, because some of it was absolutely horrible and things that no one should ever live through. But without them, I wouldn't be where I am now. And I can be thankful for who I am and where I am now. And I can be happy about living in a right time.
With the right person.
And the right friends.
Yeah. I think that's also something that gives me hope. Just when I look at the world, there's a story happening right now, and it feels like it's dark.
Feels a bit hopeless.
But that story will end, and another story will happen after it. It can be a different story.
But we don't have to take what's happening right now lying down without any resistance.
And we don't have to assume that we're powerless. We don't have to accept that things will always be this way. We can work to make them better. We can work to make a better story for next time. So with that, let's go ahead and move into our next section.
Which is actually notable quotables, even though we keep saying that that's at the end.
Yes. So it's my turn this week. So I got a couple of them. So I've got gnomish metabolism, huh?
Yeah, I like that. It's a nice, cute little running joke.
I've also, when you said you served your lady, I gotta say, I thought you meant like tea.
Not like murder.
I have, where the hells are you off to anyway? To get a book.
I do love that this whole story comes down to getting sucked right into a book.
The blurb writes itself.
Yeah.
Then I've got, it's always about time. It's the only thing that matters, and I am ravenous for it.
Yeah. Time does seem to be accelerating as we get closer to the end.
Then I've got, I'm not much of a public speaker. I sell words, I don't say them.
I love Fern.
And then the final one, and this is, I think, my favorite, see you in the story past the story. You know, just as one chapter ends, another one will begin. And yeah, I think that's a powerful thing to remember.
Yeah, our stories are made up of endings, but they're also made up of beginnings.
Exactly.
And next week we will begin anew.
Yep. So with that, it's your turn to tell us what we learned this week.
Okay. So as promised in the little short thingy that you may or may not have listened to after we said go listen to something else or do anything else, I don't know. I want to tell you that I have learned why hold music sucks so much. Thank you, Hank Green, for talking about this on SciShow, and I encourage each and every one of you to watch the video because it's going to be more thorough than what I'm going to talk about.
We'll include the link in the show notes and also on our Discord.
Yeah, probably more likely in the show notes and on Patreon, maybe. I don't know. Don't promise things that I don't remember to do. But in the show notes, for sure. All right, so the problem is threefold.
I got a couple ideas on this.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this earlier, and you said that you wanted to talk to me about your theories.
So there's a couple things that I'm thinking about here. One, it's you're looking at something that has to just loop over and over and over again for an indefinite amount of time, potentially.
But I'm going to push back on that theory, and I'll tell you why. Video game music.
Ah.
So this isn't necessarily about why music sucks as a genre. This is about why the quality of music via phone, especially hold music, sucks.
So there's the looping element, which is a limitation, but not necessarily a defect. The other thing is that it is always going to be played over the
Shirtiest
of speakers. Yeah, I mean, so if we're thinking back to analog phones where everything's coming over twisted copper wire, audio quality is not great. And so you're putting a ton of effort into having an elaborate composition, into having something that sounds pristine and wonderful. It's not going to sound good. Like the best you can hope for is like if you ever did the old dial a song thing for They Might Be Giants, it's that. It's not going to sound great.
Now, you're hitting close, but why is the question? Do you have any other theories?
So I guess because of the fact that one, your audio signal has to be heavily compressed to be able to fit through this very low bitrate transmission here. You won't be able to get any level of depth. So the only thing that will show up with clarity is going to be a very simple electronic sound.
Would you like to have the full explanation?
Sure, go for it.
All right, so threefold. So it comes down to the beginning of this is how phone lines went from being a party line where it was really expensive and you only had one line for like a neighborhood of houses or like 4 or 5 houses at the time. So everyone pitched in and they all got phone access when no one else was using it.
Right. And you had to call into a manual switchboard operator who would connect you to a given
other line.
Right.
Yes. So it was all close signal anyway. So you've got that. And then they had to figure out how they were going to make it so that they could physically fit more voices, separate lines, separate bands, they frequency shifted each person's line. Like if you're thinking in that switchboard, literally put it in the next one up and the next one up. Like they put it in different frequency bands. Well, when you have a band, our voices go from like a certain frequency low to a certain frequency high. They squished it. They cut off the highs and the lows to fit it into this band that is a smaller physical band of frequency. And we don't really hear it, especially through crappy speakers. So there's one thing. Two, the advent of digitizing the analog signal is another one of those things. So converting it from actual analog sound waves to like a digital signal and then unconverting it back to analog so we can hear it. Part of that, so that data wasn't a problem, they squished it more. That cuts off the lows. So anything that's bass in an orchestra, oboe, in a band, the bass guitar, the drums, things like that. They just cut those frequencies out so that they could have it in a smaller band. And it's part of why the music just cuts out. Oh, also, the longer the signal chain, the more added noise from the physical wires was added into it.
Right. So if you're having to do like an 800 number, which has nationwide callers.
I wouldn't even say that. Remember when like long distance was its own thing?
Yeah. I remember having to get a long distance phone card, basically a prepaid card that would cover my long distance bills.
Right. So the signal, the physical noise of the wires had to be taken back out because it just added noise the longer and longer it went.
Yep. It's why, like, if you look at a home stereo setup, the longer your wires go,
yes,
the worse the sound quality gets.
Yes, because there is physical interference. And they had to do what essentially I do when I am doing the recording, which is reduce noise. But it also kills some frequencies of the music. It just deletes them. It's gone now. That data's gone now. So the actual thing that is like the way that these are actually named. So frequency division multiplexing makes the music sound tinny. So there's the cutting a band width shorter so that you can fit more people talking in it. Digitizing actually adds static, and the distance adds static. Making it smaller adds that staticky noise. And then there is time division multiplexing. The time division multiplexing is to do with the long distance. So that just cuts out a whole lot of your signal and adds distortion. But the thing though is that these are established systems that already exist, and there's going to be a lot of money investment if anyone wants to fix this. It's not worth it to most people because it's good enough, because you can understand voices, because you can understand when people are talking to one another. It's all based off of antiquated technology and antiquated solutions to problems that to undo would be untenable.
Oh, and it's the problem on the output side as well. Like most of the time, your phone speakers are pretty crappy.
They've gotten better though. Cell phone speakers are actually a lot better than our old phone speakers from the 80s and 90s.
Oh, absolutely. And there's also a big difference between the sound quality now when we're using digital transmission methods that are pure digital. Basically, everything is done over the air up to your tower, and then from there, it's transmitted over fiber optic as opposed to twisted coil.
I agree with you, but because they already set up the divisions of all of the lines, they already do this at the beginning of the signal. They start cutting the frequencies. They start making it so that those noises never get to the fiber optics, never get to the towers, never get to, like, they're just gone.
And a large part of that is because your cell tower is serving hundreds or thousands of people in a given area.
And that's a lot of data.
Exactly.
So the smaller that you can make the data packets, the better. And so when you're listening to hold music and it does that annoying thing of just like cutting out and then coming back in and then cutting out and then coming back in, it's because it just got punted at the beginning of the signal chain.
Yep.
And it doesn't get better while it's traveling.
And meanwhile, our actual in-call audio with the people that we're trying to talk to has only gotten better. So yeah, this was the thing that no one really wanted to try and solve for because there's no money to be made in doing so.
It's a quality of life thing for people who have to listen to hold music all the time. But let's be clear here, who uses the phone for the phone anymore?
Right. And it's also not stopping people for the most part from doing the thing that they need to do. It's just there to let people who are waiting on hold know that the call is still active. That's all it has to be.
Yep. So no one has any desire whatsoever to invest money into fixing it.
Makes sense. Well, with that, it's my turn to recommend something this week. So my recommendation is actually kind of a revisit. So a few episodes ago, I recommended the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. And now I've finally actually finished the whole thing. So I kind of just wanted to revisit it and let you know that, yep, the recommendation still stands.
Is the series itself over, or are they going to keep writing anymore?
They are no longer writing Expanse books. They have finished the Expanse. Right now, most of the ongoing stuff that you see in the universe is related to the TV show or the video game that is also set in the TV show version of the universe.
Awesome.
I have watched the TV show and it's a lot of fun. It really kind of scratched that Battlestar Galactica itch. Feels a lot like that. Again, very much a space opera, though told from the perspective of space truckers. It's the best way to think of it. One of the things that I really appreciate about the Expanse series is that at the end of each book, a new status quo is introduced that radically changes what day-to-day life is for our characters. And regardless of how catastrophically things change, they do find ways to carry on and find bits of joy and look for ways to improve things in the future. Because while a status quo can change, and it often does change in ways that we don't like, that isn't the end of the story. It's not the end of things for people. There are people who carry on and who will come after, and there's always hope for that sort of thing. And it's that hope that helps keep the struggle alive. And it's not just to return to the way things may have been in the past, but to actually make something that works better. And we see this all the way throughout. I'm not going to get into individual plot points because I don't want to spoil it too much. I want to encourage people to actually read it and enjoy it. But I thought it was a really fun series. It's also thoughtful, and the characters are a lot of fun. They're idiosyncratic. We spend a lot of time actually with the antagonists. So you never really get the sense that the antagonists are just these faceless obstacles. They all have very human motives.
I do appreciate when stories encourage us to look at people complexly.
Yeah. We also get to see our protagonists, who we are generally sympathetic with, through the eyes of people who don't like them. And we can see why people might not like them. We probably won't agree with that reasoning, but we can understand it. And at the same time, we also get the seeds for a potential resolution between our protagonists and antagonists as they find shared common values over time. And I think that's the other crucial part. So yeah, I definitely think that this is a series that is well worth reading. Right now, the last 3 books of the series feel especially trenchant in our given moment. Gestures vaguely at the world around us. And at the same time, there's hope. There's the potential for something better that comes after. There is a story after the story. Yeah, sometimes the bad guys win, but that doesn't end the universe. It just closes a chapter, and there's a new chapter waiting to start, and we can try and do something better. So with that, I'd like to thank you for potting with me.
Thank you for potting with me.
And thanks for listening to Tales from the Waystone.
Join us next time when we begin the Monk and Robot books. And I haven't divided that up into 7 quite yet. So the beginning of the book to, I don't know, a 1/7 of the way through-ish.
So yeah, we're getting back into some Becky Chambers stuff.
So this is going to be a pretty thinky one.
There's not a whole lot of action, but there is a lot of contemplation. It's meditative.
That's a good word for it. Anyway, we hope that you enjoy it. We hope that you've enjoyed listening to us go over Bookshops and Bonedust. If you have any suggestions, come join us on our Discord or our Patreon. You can send us a message either place for free. And, we'd love to hear from you. We would like to thank our friend Shawnee Jang for our theme music.
And many thanks to Travis Baldree for creating this universe that we've enjoyed exploring.
Audio production and editing courtesy of me, Phoenix McCullough.
And writing and project management courtesy of me, Will McCullough.
If you would like to help support us and have the means to do so, please consider becoming a patron on our Patreon page, patreon.com/waystonepod. No pressure. We'd much rather you come and join us on our Discord. Tell us about books you love. Tell us about TV shows that you love. Tell us about music that you love, or Lego sets, or model kits, or any other thing that is floating your goat right now.
And as always, here's to one more day above the roses.
To one more day above the roses.
Ding!
Probably shouldn't put that on top of a digital thing, but at least it wasn't my phone.
At least.
Because I don't want to be a dumb.
Ash. That would be preferable.
Yeah, I'd rather be a smart.
Ash.
But because I swore, I can't really use that as a thing that we put at the end. Guess I kind of really was a dumb.
Ash.
Say Ash.
Ash.